Uh, Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining. My name is Yao, and I am the Connecticut Land Conservation Council's Director of Grants and Programs. Welcome to CLCC's January webinar series. So we are kicking off this series with our new Land Capital Grants program. This will be followed by webinars on our Connecticut Conservation Partnership Program, Transaction Assistance Grant Program, and Climate Smart Land Stewardship Grant Program. So who are we? CLCC is the umbrella organization for the state's land conservation community. Our mission is to elevate and strengthen land conservation in Connecticut. Our work includes providing technical and financial support to land trusts, convening the land conservation community through networking and collaborative programs, advocating on behalf of the conservation community, and providing land trusts with the tools to further their impact within and outside their communities. So our focus today is on the Land Capital Grants Program. We will review the goals of the program, the eligibility criteria, the award sizes, the application process, and the evaluation criteria, and use the remainder of the time for questions. So why was this program created? We often hear from land trusts that funding is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to conserving land. In our recent census, land trusts reported that your top needs related to acquisition was identifying new funding sources and matching funds. In addition to this need, we as CLCC want to build on our existing grant programs. We want land trusts to come to us for the funding they need to begin, close out, and steward your projects. In other words, we want to be a one-stop shop for your conservation funding needs. The purpose of the Land Capital Grant Program is to provide grants for land and conservation easement acquisitions. It is our programmatic goal to help accelerate land conservation efforts, bridge funding gaps, leverage funding sources, and ensure timely project completion. So what are the eligibility requirements of this program? Applicants must be CLCC members, so 501c nonprofit organizations with a mission dedicated to land conservation in Connecticut. Projects must be located within Connecticut, but multi-state projects may be considered as long as the project is predominantly in Connecticut. Projects must entail some form of permanent protection. This could be a fee simple acquisition by the land trust, a pass through to a partner entity with a mission to permanently protect land, such as a state agency or a tribe, and or a permanent conservation easement. One of perhaps the most important eligibility criteria of this program is that projects must close within 12 months of or less of the grant award notification. So how much are we awarded? We have a minimum grant size of $50,000 and a maximum grant size of $500,000 or 30% of the appraised property value, whichever is lesser. So as an example, if you have a project that is appraised at $400,000, the 30% of the appraised value is equal to $120,000, and that would be your maximum awards based on the two conditions, $500,000 or 30% of the appraised property value, the lesser value. So if you have $1 million project, the 30% of the appraised value is $300,000. That would be your maximum award. If you have a $2 million project, 30% of the appraised value is $600,000. Your maximum award would be $500,000 because that is the lesser value. And grants cannot be used to repay loans or for reimbursements. So applications are by invitation only, and this process starts with a conversation with me. In this conversation, we will assess whether your project is suitable for the program. So we will talk about your project's readiness to close, the amount of funding you've secured, and the project complexity or any risk associated with it. In terms of timeline, applications will be due throughout the calendar year on the first of every other month, beginning March 1st. And applications will be accepted until all funds are fully expended. So this next slide just captures the application process. So our first application deadline is March 1st. We have a review period of March through April, and our funding decisions are made on April 30th, 2025. And if you've awarded and once you've been notified of funding, you have until 12 months. So you have until April 30th, 2026 to close on your project. Let's go back. So, and so one thing we wanted to make this program accessible to all land trusts. So we have multiple deadlines. So if you're unable to make the application deadline or your project won't close by this deadline, you have May 1st, July 1st, September 1st, or November 1st to apply for funding. So what are you looking for in your projects? Um, just as a little note, as part of this program, we will be using the Nature Conservancy's land mapping tool to assess some elements of your project. We won't review the tool during this info session, but for land trusts interested and invited to apply to this program, I will work with you to pull out the information you need on your projects. So our first evaluation criteria centers around biodiversity and habitat. So we're looking at the percent of the site that has some sort of recognized biodiversity. And we're also looking at the habitat types, the species, any species of concern on the project site, and any special features that your project has. We're also looking at connectivity, your distance of your project to other conserved lands. Is it expanded open space? Is it enhancing wildlife corridors? Our next criteria is climate resilience. The nature mapping tool can compute a site resilience score, which we use to evaluate your project. But we're also looking at ways that your acquisition can mitigate the impacts of climate change. We're also looking at water resources. How does your acquisition contribute to local water quality? We're also looking at public access and accessibility. So what are the allowable uses of your project site? How will people access the site? Are they going to walk to it? Are they going to drive to it? Can they access it by public transit? And is the project area accessible to a range of users? Will it have interpretive signage? Can wheelchair users use your property? Other factors we are considering are environmental justice. So, is your project located in a distressed community? Is it located in an environmental justice community or targeted enforcement municipality? Is it improving access to green space? And how does your project contribute to the community health and well-being? We're also assessing your land trust capacity in terms of your acquisition expertise and your recent closings and the project and land trust readiness. Are your due diligence activities completed? Have you secured funding or have you applied for funding and you're waiting to hear back from the funder? The urgency of the project. What are some threats to the project that require it to be preserved now and not sometime down in the future? We will assess your land trust, any stewardship plan for whatever your particular project. And the last evaluation criteria is creativity. As your project, and we don't have a we haven't set a standard definition of what creativity is. It is up to you as the applicant to show us that your project is creative, whether that is through some sort of collaboration with an entity that a land trust would not normally partner with, or perhaps as part of this acquisition, there is a grand plan to do something with the community on the project site. In terms of grant payment and the reporting process, so once you've been awarded, we will have a contractual agreement with you and we will issue payment either directly to the land trust or into escrow. And as part of our final reporting requirements, all what we're seeking is evidence of closing. So a copy of the final deed, settlement statement, and any other recorded information. And in addition to this, we will be requesting a stewardship plan. We want to see how you're gonna manage the property in perpetuity. And that brings us to the end of just the informational piece of this webinar. And for the rest of the session, we will just open it up to questions. If you have any particular projects you want to talk about, that is what we're here for now.
I have a question.